Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions, and thank you again so much for our time together. Tomorrow is School of the Cross. Make sure that you're here before 9 o'clock because we'll start with one quick chorus, and then we just start teaching for the next 6 hours of walking through all the events of the cross and what Jesus accomplished for you and what Jesus accomplished for me. Let me take you back to some Holy Week teaching today because this is one of those events that occurred as Jesus spent every day in the temple courts. We learned that on the very first night of the Palm Sunday, he entered in, looked around, and came back the next day and cleaned it out, and then spent the rest of the week teaching and healing and watching the offerings. Luke chapter 21, verse 1. As he looked up, Jesus saw the rich putting their gifts into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 very small copper coins. I tell you the truth, he said, this poor widow has put in more than all the others. All these people gave their gifts out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on. I often teach pastors that when you and I start making a big deal about amounts and how much people give, and we start making the church about the donations of rich people, we've gone down to the dark side, to use the old Star Wars metaphor. Giving can never be about the amount. It must be about the generosity. Because it is not the amount that determines the harvest. It's the generosity that determines the harvest. Jesus said, with the same measure you use, it will be measured back unto you. As pastors, when we make a big deal about somebody giving 1,000,000 pesos, I don't think Jesus pays any attention. Jesus pays attention to generosity. He doesn't pay attention to amounts. Somebody walks in and gives 100 million pesos. Jesus would not pay any attention. But Jesus would pay attention to the generosity of a person. Now this little widow woman on that day took 2 very small copper coins. I buy some of these every year that I go to Israel. 2,000 years later, they're still not worth very much. $10 a piece for ancient coins. Usually ancient coins are worth huge amounts of money, but these little copper coins, they still only cost about $10 a piece. 2,000-year-old ancient coins. This is all the woman gave on that day. And Jesus stopped everybody and said, would you look at this? This woman has given more than all of the others. I challenge you today. Let us say that you are an extremely wealthy person with the goods of this world. I ask you the question, are you giving with generosity? Or do you just look at the amount now when you write the check? And just say, I give a lot of money because it's... Jesus doesn't care about your amounts. That will not determine a harvest for you. Jesus is looking at the generosity of your heart. This woman gave all she had to live on. That was incredible generosity. And Jesus wrote this down for all eternity to see, the story of a little woman's generosity. I'll be anxious when I get to heaven to find this little woman one day and ask her what kind of a harvest she received. Because Jesus did say, give and it shall be given unto you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over. Jesus did say, with the same measure you use, it will be measured unto you. Now, if the measure you use, 1,000,000 pesos, is something that you can give and, no big deal, then forgive me. There's not much harvest there. But for some of you, to give 100 pesos, to give 500 pesos, is a huge amount of money to you. And I can remember a young man who used to give everything he had every week and then walk home from church. And people laughed and said, why do you do that? Save money at least to take transportation home. He said, no, I'm sewing for a car. He said, so I'll give everything I have every week. Well, one day he drove up in his car. It wasn't the amount that he gave. It was the generosity that he gave from. Now, if you want to practice sowing and reaping in a way that will actually bring a harvest to your family and get out of the realm of religious giving and let's list the top donors of the church, then you need to get into the realm of this widow's mite. You need to get into the realm of generosity. God never looks at how many zeros are on your offering envelope. God looks at the generosity of your heart.